Well, hello again, all the boys and girls out there in YouTube land watching Georgia Beer Reviews. Back at you today with another one. I'm looking at the second can from the Data Set Experimental Series from Treehouse. This is the Wild Modern Yeast. So we just did this one, which was a house yeast. So 4 different beers, all the same base. The only variance is with the yeast that they use. So we did the house yeast, solid A, 95 out of 100. You can go watch my review on that if you like. This is the second can in the 4-pack. So different yeast, wild modern yeast. And let's see. For data set number 2, we utilize a wild modern yeast that generates thiols through biotransformation, releasing a wave of tropical aromas often experienced in southern hemisphere hops. An intensive mash hopping schedule feeds this transformation. The difference between number 1 and number 2 is profound and almost entirely a function of the yeast utilized. So that is very exciting to me because most of these beers, you're looking at different hops and the way that they hop the beers, especially for Treehouse for these double IPAs, and that's where you get the difference in flavor. But for this particular series of beer, they only change up the yeast, so it really will be interesting to see how this beer, using the wild modern yeast, differs from number 1. So let's go ahead and pour it up. It probably will look the same. Be a nice bright yellowish orange color, opaque, with a white, kind of a creamy looking head. Yep, looks just like beer number 1. A little bit more juicy, tropical juicy. There's a sweet cereal type note with this, almost like a Fruit Loops aroma. Like sugary sweet cereal, tangerine citrus. This one definitely smells sweeter and more tropical on the nose with that sugary cereal sweet note. Mango, pineapple. Yeah, but it definitely smells a lot different than number 1, for sure. There's a lot more going on with the aroma. With this one, more tropical fruit and that cereal note. So very interesting. Of course, none of the alcohol's coming through at 8%. It smells like a delightful beer. So without further ado, let's get into this brew. Cheers. Tropical, sweet, mango, pineapple, tangerine citrus, maybe a little passion fruit coming through as well. You get into the middle of the sip, it's nice and bready and almost cereal-like. That sugary cereal type note is coming through. A little bit of wheat malt. The body with this feels a little heavier. It feels a little bit more substantial than with data set number 1. Carbonation is probably a little bit lighter. Number 1 seemed a little bit lighter bodied with heavier carbonation. This one seems a little bit heavier bodied with less carbonation. Even though when I say heavy, it seems to have more body than the first one, but it's still very mild. It's probably a medium, low to medium body with very mild carbonation. A little bit more malt bready notes coming through in the middle of the sip with that cereal note as well, as I've mentioned. And then the finish is juicy. Not getting the grassiness with this one. It feels a little bit more bitter on the back end too, for whatever reason. There's a little bit more bitterness that I'm detecting with this one. but it's very well rounded. Maybe because it's more sweet in the middle, like almost sugary type cereal sweet in the middle. I'm picking up on the hops more as I swallow it down because they cut through that and it kind of balances it out a little bit more. Very enjoyable. I think I like this one better than number one. There's a little bit more complexity, more tropical fruit flavors, a little bit sweeter. The bitterness on the back end is a little bit more substantial, but it's well rounded with the sweet notes in the middle and the tropical fruit and that bitterness on the finish. It's well rounded. The only thing I like about the first one, I think, better than this one is it had a little bit more carbonation, but this one has more body, more tropical fruit, more well rounded on the finish, especially with the hops. So I gave number one a 95. I'm going to give number two a 97. I think this one is a couple points better. It's got more of those flavors that I personally like in a juicy IPA, more tropical fruit, more balance from the hops on the finish, and that nice kind of sweet cereal type note from the malt, from the yeast, whatever, that I'm detecting in the middle that I wasn't picking up on the first can. So 97 out of 100 for the Dataset Experimental number 2. Very cool project from Treehouse. I really like these beers, and I can't wait to try number 3 and number 4. So, all that being said, buy this beer if you can get Treehouse beers in your area. Buy the 4-pack so you can try all 4 of the Dataset Experimental with all these different yeast and see what you think. Let me know in the comments below. That'll do it for this beer review, guys. 97 out of 100 for the Dataset Experimental number 2. Hope you're all having a wonderful day, and we'll see you right here on the next Georgia Beer Review. Until then, cheers, everybody. So good.